Right.
Okay, we'll bring our meeting to order for the January 14th, 2025 meeting of the board for Thurston County Fire Protection District 8. And the first that we'll have is any public comments. And we have some employees, but I don't see any other folks.
Well, Milt.
Oh, excuse me, sir,
Milt,
please.
Yeah, I have just a short comment. Appreciate the opportunity to join in just at the beginning here. I thought it was really important to acknowledge the passing of Shirley Root. She, as you may know, was a longtime volunteer for the North Olympia Fire Department. For many years, she and her husband, Ed, were really the core of the department. I'm sure, Brian, you remember them well. She was the first woman EMT in Thurston County and lived next door to the station on Boston Harbor Road. And she and her husband donated a lot of the property that we enjoy there. And I think the fire department and the entire community just owe a huge debt of gratitude to her for her service. So I just thought it was important to acknowledge that.
What was her last name, Milt?
Shirley Root, R-O-O-T.
Okay, thank you.
And there's an obituary about her that's in the newspaper in the Olympian, I think from Sunday was when that was published.
Thank you so much for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that was it. Just wanted to share that with y'all. So,
Okay,
Thanks, Mel.
right.
all right. Enjoy your meeting.
Wait a minute, you can't leave now.
See you later.
Chicken.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, good to have Milt participate. Let's see, we do have Steve Hatton here. Do we want to?
You can do that.
You want to
Let's,
do it before we do nominees?
yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
We'll get our update on the North Olympia Station project.
I'll just start. This has been a long hanging project that we've been trying to get through. Finally, I think we're at the point to start pounding nails or digging ditches or whatever. So what I've asked him, Steve, to do was give us a briefing on the current plan. And I'll talk about it a little bit later on budget, but we have constructed our CNR&R budget to cover this project. We're looking at 2 phases now, a 2-year process. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Steve. I can hand this out.
Mike helped organize things a little. Is there a better place to stand or not? No.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right here. Wouldn't want to miss opportunity to be on camera.
Yeah.
There we go.
So yes, things have evolved on this over time. It started with some pipes that were breaking that fed the old reservoirs, and then it evolved to realizing how old the old reservoirs were. And that led to trying to figure out how to permit a replacement for it. And somewhere along that way, as some of the county permitting process got kind of carried away and started lengthening the timeout, Chief said, stop, let's think about this. What do we need at Station 83 to make sure that it's good for the next 30 years? Because a lot of the things that were built 30 years ago are starting to age out. And so this little exhibit that you just got is a real quick snapshot of that. And the first part of it is highlighted in yellow, which is to say that the fire pump itself is quite old, should be replaced. The building that the fire pump in is not protected. There's no sprinklers there. Actually, the main station, the awning out in front of it should be sprinkled as well, and it's not. The fire pump itself does not have backup power, so if the power's out, the station burns. And the existing generator is far too small to feed, the fire pump and building, and it's also elderly, if not old. So the first concept is this yellow that is upgrade the mechanical and the electrical to feed the building. It'll be good to go for some time. The orange looks at the underground piping, some of which, as I said, started this whole discussion as it was starting to break. It's old, brittle. Once you open that ditch up, there's other pipes that are right next to it. You've already torn things apart and they're also getting old. So let's fix all of that. And then we have this big row of trees that sits in the middle between the reservoirs and the old station that are just tearing up the asphalt and serving really not much purpose. So we started looking at several of those things that really should be done. And then the third concept is where we started again a few years back, those reclaimed oil storage tanks from Olympia Wood from Lord knows when. Investigated them and they really are starting to fail. They don't meet much in terms of code, in terms of standing up for seismic and whatnot. So how do we find a reservoir that's appropriately sized that won't send us into a $15,000 and 2-year process with permitting at Thurston County? So we resolved those questions and have a way to do this efficiently. One contract to do all of this stuff all at the same time is about an $800,000 program. And it's a bit challenging. Most general contractors would have a role to play. They would actually want the job because they'd have crews that would do certain things like build buildings. Well, there's none of that. So what we end up with is a site contractor that likes the underground, a mechanical, electrical contractor that likes the pumps and the sprinklers and the electrical, and then somebody that builds a reservoir. And the general contractor does nothing but, are you doing your job, you three? And then we'll put some money in my pocket. The problem with that is getting general contractors' attention to actually bid the job. And that's a little bit of a challenge. So we looked at ways to break this up, and really in these color-coded situations, the mechanical electrical is really one good mechanical electrical contractor. And it's isolated and it doesn't affect any of the other things that are happening. The most effective way to build that reservoir is to contract sole source with Baker Silo. Baker Silo does concrete storage tanks. They've been doing them since they were Mount Baker Silo and a generation or two ago. And steel tanks just don't compete with it. They've got a system and it works really good, and just about every water tank of this size and a smaller size, it's a full 300 million gallons or something, but that's where we go. So it's a sole source contract, but all they do is tank. They don't want to prep the ground. They do the piping under the tank, but once it gets outside the tank, they don't want anything to do with it. That's what they do is tanks. So the orange, that contractor, he loves doing the orange stuff. And what we have done, we did this for District 6 some years ago. We let a contract to do orange kind of things and embedded in that, once you prep the ground for the reservoir, we need you to leave for 2 months. And then Mount Baker built their silo, and then they come back and finish the orange. If we break it out like that, it improves cash flow, of course. The yellow, you take care of all the sprinkling, the fire pump. I think that's shy of 400K, three something. And then probably the orange and the reservoir, you sort of bid at the same time, but they're separate contracts. So you save the general contractor markup because you don't need one. And yet they're kind of tied in timing, so it's helpful to just do it as not the same bid, but a simultaneous bid, so to speak. And, you know, and you can save, we figure 10% of the total project cost.
So the orange one, approximately how much are they talking that one?
I think the way to look at it is, yellow is 400
Mhm.
and orange is 2 and pink is 2.
And the other one is 2, the tank is 2.
Yeah, more or less, kind of round numbers. And permitting for the tank itself, that does have to go through an abbreviated program with Thurston County. But well down from the 15,000 special use public hearing process. It's sized now where they said, yeah, okay, we get it. But we'll do a little bit of review. That will still take time because it takes time. So it would be a 26 project. So the orange and the pink would be a 26 project, but you should be teed up to go early in 26. And then the yellow could be done soon or late, up to you. That's,
The contract, work would be much like what we did on our drain field septic tank program out here. We had no general on that. We had a
right.
utility contractor that did the work and everything. So it really does simplify things. And like Steve says, it does save a premium amount that the general will charge for it. So.
Yeah, and I didn't mention, but there's a lot of dirt contractors that would do the orange stuff. And
In fact,
so
the one that
you
did
get,
this work.
you get a lot more bidders.
Yeah.
Yeah, the septic guy would be one. And the same with the yellow, you get, there's more opportunity for people that are to be interested and want to play. And
So with the yellow, can that be started ahead of time to get everything in place? And then once the other 2 are completed, it's just a matter of hooking it up?
There's no connection between yellow and orange. The yellow is a standalone, can be done with.
The idea would be to kick it off for this year.
Yeah, it could be
Okay,
done and
so the yellow-
nothing else ever done.
Okay.
Wouldn't advise it, but you could do that.
The only thing we need a permit for is that tank itself, through the county.
Yeah, there's, I think that's true. Maybe LNI gets involved with electrical inspection or something, but the only real permit, the county wants to do an environmental review on the tank replacement because it's different. And so, but it's not a special use permit. It's really, are you impacting critical areas or some such thing? And then once you get to actually bidding and building Mount Baker Silo now, they actually have to do design on their tank and then get a building permit for that tank. And that's all part of what they do. They handle the tank, but don't ask them to do anything outside of it.
Well, it's good to hear that the tank and sizing and that issue has sort of been resolved. As I
Yeah.
recall, we were talking, one tank with too small, so it was like 2 tanks and that threw us into the threshold.
Well, yeah, what happened is, again, Baker Silo is rather efficient, and so there's 2 10.5 foot diameter tanks, 30 feet tall, so we went to the county first with another 30-foot tall tank that was 20 feet diameter. Same kind of size, but like 3 times as efficient, so the volume was quite large, and they went, oh, well, that's too much, you're gonna have to go through special use permit.
Yeah.
So then we backed that off and said, okay, well, let's not just do what makes some sense. Let's find out what the minimum is and then try and hit that. And so we're able to do that, and you end up with a 47,000 gallon tank, which is more than technically you need, but once you build the bottom and the top of those tanks, the sides are pretty cheap.
So when they demolition that, does that company take the tanks away? We don't have to
Right.
hire somebody else to take those away.
Okay.
They do everything.
Yeah, part of the orange is to remove the old tanks.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
coming tonight and for
This is great.
providing really clear
So
information.
part of the deal is basically asking for permission. I don't know that we need board action on the project itself, but part of, obviously, it's the budget for it, so that will be included in our budget discussion. But the intention would be to, if the budget passes, of course, is beginning work on this immediately and getting stuff going. So including some planning for next year, but getting things rolling. So
Refresh me, didn't we budget for some of this or part of this?
Yes.
In previous
it,
budgets?
from one way or another, it's been in the budget for 5 years, so.
Okay, okay, I thought it had been, so,
It has.
okay.
So this is the point to where we actually do something. So,
Right. Okay. If we were to decide to proceed with the yellow stuff, then when would request for bids be put out potentially?
as soon as we'll probably want to get any permits and get all of that ironed out. So it could, I
It
don't
would still happen in the first quarter of this year, or would that wait until the second quarter?
It might be second quarter, but the AHU has just about all the plans done.
Yeah.
So it would be a short trip.
the good news is it would put us in the construction window, so
Yeah, right, for
weather-wise.
second, third quarter, yeah, that would be good. Okay,
Do we need to make any motions on this or?
Not,
Not yet.
when we get the bid or bids, we'll come to the board at that time, but tonight is just to let you know what we plan to do. And hopefully we approve the budget to pay for all of this.
Okay.
Do anybody have any more questions for Steve then?
No,
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
okay. All right, so we'll throw the agenda in reverse and go back just a little bit. So annually, we do nominations for chair, vice chair, and labor rep. We already took care of the BVFF chair, so I think these are the only three that we have to think about. Our current folks, or Pam and myself, I guess. Pam, you have sort of double duty. You're both labor rep and vice chair currently, and I'm the chair currently. And so we will open the floor to nominations for what we might want to do for 2025.
so question is, Pam, do you feel comfortable being the chair?
I think I could do it.
Okay,
I don't want to do it yet. I'm, I just got a lot going on right now.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm
And so,
asking.
I don't wanna.
And I've been a chair
Probably could do it,
before,
but
so I don't know if you two want to step up or.
I think Doug does a good job. Are you
Doug
comfortable
would do it again.
chair for it again?
I could do that. I'd be happy to do that. I did that, Pam and I had this
We had a
conversation about that. I had concern, yeah, for everything that's going on in your
Yeah.
life, your spouse and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, absolutely reasonable. I'd be happy to continue as the chair if that is what your
I'm fine
pleasure
with
is.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm good being labor rep unless somebody wants to jump in on that.
You want to jump in and be assistant, or do you? You don't want to, you're like, I got too much on my plate too.
You're in the seat, right?
Stay right.
Thinking the same.
Okay.
So what do we need to do here? Make this one nomination for the two positions or two nominations for two positions?
Either way, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion to re-elect Doug for the chair.
Okay.
For the chair.
Okay. All right. That was
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Alright, so now it's the vice chair.
Vice chair. I'll move that Pam
You got it?
stay as our vice
Okay.
chair.
Okay. It's okay, no,
Do I have a second on that?
Pam,
Jake, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Okay, And our last one for labor rep.
Do you want, I don't know what that entails.
It's meeting with them, they meet sometimes.
It's a
once
board
month,
rep on
sometimes
our
once a
labor
week.
management committee. We meet monthly. We've been kind of a hiatus the last month or so. Probably not a lot of meetings this year because we'll be engaged in contract negotiations. But it would be the primary person involved with labor management committee.
Is there a conflict of interest if I have interest in that position?
Not as an elected official.
Use
Yeah,
that
yeah,
title.
you want
Yeah, use that title.
Okay, so we nominate
Okay.
Jake to be labor rep.
All right. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm slow getting.
Good, thank you, everyone. All right, we're down to the chief's report then.
I did send out the report last week. Unfortunately, we did not have our financials from the county again.
Right.
But I do, Monday, we did get them, and so I'll be talking about that a little bit. But other than that, hope you all had an opportunity to look at the report, and I would be glad to answer any questions.
Just a brief thing on the presentation that you did at the Foxbury Rotary. What was that on?
At the what, man?
You did a presentation to the Hawkesbury Rotary on
Oh,
December
Rotary.
6th.
Yeah.
Talked about Thurston County Fire Service.
Yeah, it was an invite to have the visiting firemen there, and talk about the fire service in Thurston County. I did. It was a nice meeting. Pretty generic.
That's all I pretty much, there was. Yeah, I didn't really.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll move on. Our 5-year plan.
Well, we have a labor report.
For staffing.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, the other half of that.
I gave a handout, has our shift chart. It's always, being flexed and going, but I thought that, and it's kind of question back to the board, what would be an appropriate way to give you the information you want as we go? As we know, Prop 1 passed, we have goal number 2, which talks about increasing our staffing. So I think it's going to get more complicated as we grow in the next few years. So I thought instead of just telling you at a board meeting, oh, 2 people left, 1 got hired, one of the one-offs, but rather get a better trap. So if you look on the back side of the chart, there's a chart I have up on there, and it shows the numbers that are our goals and our counts. And there's the 5-year staffing plan, so we can see how many we're supposed to bring in 25, 26, 27. So my thought was just to have a quick little chart. I mean, obviously it's going to be a lot of complexities with what's going on. What are the details? How do we hire? Who do we hire? How do we go about all that? But just to give us kind of a stamp as we progress, my thought was just a quick little visual might be more helpful for you all. So if anybody has any thoughts, I can let you digest on it over a month. If you have any suggestions or requests for the months as we go, if there's any little piece of information you'd like to see on that, might be helpful. But of course, in the chief's report, you'll see the details on kind of where we're coming along, some more specifics. But as far as just our monthly little update on what's going on, if you guys think this is a good idea, I can do this for us.
So it looks like you're planning on hiring 2 career or 3 career firefighter EMTs for this year.
So there's 3 more vacancy career firefighters,
Okay.
and then the current plan is 3 more lieutenants.
Right.
Okay.
But obviously, if some firefighters promote over to lieutenant, that would open up more vacancies.
Right,
Backfill.
Right. So have you guys started that process?
No, right now we're still in goal 2, which is put together the plan of when, how, and what the timeline would look like.
And timeline on that?
Yep, that's part of the work.
Just one thought on your thing here, maybe down at the bottom, if you had, what's the change from the previous year? Make it just really clear. The 2025 versus 2024 is +6.
Okay.
Right? It's from 18 to 24. And, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, the
that
difference of the previous year.
difference of the previous year. Yeah, I think that would be just very clarifying. So, because obviously it wasn't, it shows 3 firefighters or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I didn't
yeah, if you take-
even go to the lieutenant part.
Yeah, we take and move firefighters up into lieutenants or whatever and do that kind of thing.
So, see,
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll build on both of those two. 24 to 25, 25 to 26, there's a significant increase in career staffing. I know we touched on it last meeting a little bit about kind of just having some transparency on what that plan is. I know we have one in academy right now, but to get on this graph, 18 to 24 from this calendar year, what that plan is gonna be, as soon as we can have some visibility on it. So-
Right, yep, and that's the details of the goal too we have and the work that we have to do. So we'll have a lot more as we build, and you'll see the specifics on that. This was just kind of a quick snapshot summary,
Sure.
but obviously you'll be seeing the details of exactly what the plan is.
So by the next meeting, you'll have that snapshot or that.
That's the schedule. The
Okay.
February, I think, is, my boss told me accountable to have it ready by
Because I'm like,
February.
every month I'm looking at, I want to see some progress that we're in the process of hiring.
February should be a big one, so we should see some big updates on the overall plan.
Because we need to show the citizens that you're doing that.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move forward. Mr. Van Camp.
Okay, y'all should have had I did send this out, I think, yesterday, but it's a series of spreadsheets, if you will. And I'll walk through them and be glad to answer any question, but essentially, the ultimate end will be your approval of the 2025 four funds, four budgets that we have. So the top page, there's a one in the corner that says budget 25 budget worksheet. It's a chart showing our program budget, not the line item, but the program level budget for each of our funds, and comparing between the 2024 actuals and the proposed budget for 2025. So starting with the first tier up there is the revenues. You'll note that there's a substantial increase in property tax revenues planned between the 5 million and the 7.2 million. And most of that's due to the 1.9 million additional money that we're getting in our M&O levy this year. So the rest of them are pretty much the same. So it shows a total operating budget income of 8.3 million. And then going down, each of these line items has been adjusted, not really as significantly other than increased costs, but other than the INR and R personnel labor cost reflects the labor costs for the additional career staff that we're hiring. So most of the others, some of the maintenance and operations for facilities and equipment have increased. Part of it due to increased costs. One significant one was our contract with the City of Olympia for maintenance for apparatus was increased by 21%. They converted to an enterprise system, and they finally had to realize what it really cost them to do the business, so they had to raise the rates, so which was not unexpected, but part of doing business. So, and then
Quick question in that
yes.
grouping. So I see one of the things that jumps out is training and education, almost, well, not quite triples, but 2.5 times or something like that. And would that reflect then the training and education required for the new people that we're going to hire?
This and the fact that we are going to do live fire this year, which is a significant cost when we go over to the
Over to Mark Noble.
fire pad.
Yeah.
And just what our hope is to do some additional leadership training too. So we've got that on tap as well. So the cost for the career recruit academy is not insignificant, but again, pushing 1 to 6 people through that process is going to be spendy. So yes, that's the bulk of that increase.
Okay. Good answer.
So that's pretty much the operating budget. The next budget down is the CNR and R budget, and I did actually include a copy of the detailed sheet of that. We'll go over that in a minute, but the revenue and expenses are all reflected in that as well. A big piece of that is the about 400,000 that we will spend on the Station 83 project in 2025. And then about that much in 26 on the Station 83. There really aren't very many other major items on that, so you can see that the expenditure levels ends up being about a little bit than twice what it was last year. Then reserve budget. This is the budget that we are maintaining to keep our reserves at 33% of our operating budget. So this is the third year that we've contributed to it, and it's just a maintenance level on that. So that money, both the CNR and our budget and the reserve budgets are allocated from the operating budget. As you can see down, if you go back up to the yellow block, the last two items are transfers into the CNR and R reserve. And then the bottom one is our, used to be our capital reserve budget. We are spending it down. A portion of that budget is being transferred into our operating budget this year. It's going to leave about $30,000 in there at the end of the year. I think that probably in 26, I'll suggest that we abolish that fund and be done with it and get down to 3 different funds. But just as a note, that was originally intended to help fund a replacement fire station or facility, and
On 78,
it goes back to that.
yeah, that's when it's created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes back to that. Pretty high level, but are there any questions at all? Okay. So if you turn the page, there is pretty much what Brandon was talking about. This is kind of a budgetary look at the staffing plan and the impacts of our 5-year plan. It shows across the top there the R&R staffing, both for career and volunteer. It estimates the increases that we have proposed and talked about and ultimately funded. But it also sets some average staffing of about ramping down from 27 to 25 and hoping to maintain a core of 25 volunteer FTEs throughout the year. And then talking about income, as you can see in that line there, with the levy restoration in 23-4-24, it bumped us up 18.4% increase in our revenues, going from $1.30 to $1.50. So it was not insignificant. The M&O levy will again bump us up about 32%. And then it plays out over the next 5 years. Just below that, those percentages are the estimated levy rates that the taxpayer would expect to be taxed on their real property. Below that, there's a line item called ballot measure, and it highlights the fact when there would be a planned revenue ballot measure. So it shows M&O in orange box under 24, and then that M&O authorized us for a 4-year levy. And if we wanted to continue that, the voters would have to approve a renewal in 2028 for that. And we estimate at this point, and I'll talk about it as we go to the more detailed sheet, probably a continued lowering of the levy rate just due to the increased assessed valuation that we.
On here you have levy rate and mill in parentheses, is it $1,000?
Mill is, yeah, 1/1000th of a dollar.
Okay.
The next box down shows the changes in our expense budget.
Quick question on 2028 ballot proposition for continuing M&O. Does the continuing M&O also require 60%?
Yes.
It does.
It's not like restoring the levy rate. It's a complete new excess levy.
Yeah, okay. Complete new levy each time.
Right. And for that reason, part of the plan was to coincide on major general election years to hopefully ensure that we have,
Lots of voters.
well, that we have enough voters, whether they vote yes or no. So-
Right. Yep.
And then, it does show that we, this year in 25 will be the last year that we'll supplement our revenues from our old capital facilities fund. Expenses, shows changes, from year to year. Our 2024 expenditures were 8.5% higher than they were in 23. We expect, primarily due to the additional career staff, of increasing our labor expenses by about a third, 32.5%. And then it tapers out as we not increase, but continue to maintain a staff, generally a level of, it's shown at the table there, 28 career staff and 25 volunteers. And then shows that through the 5-year plan, we continue to fully fund our capital repairs and replacement, and we've continued to fully fund our reserve. Any questions on that chart?
No, my concern is, I mean, how many volunteer staff do we have that actually are going on calls and stuff at this time?
Other than the, well, all of them actually.
Yeah, but how many do we have?
What,
We had
The number.
we had an average of 27.
27. We have an average of 27
2024.
right now.
Right now, I think we have 34 total people.
the names in the red are the ones in training? On the other side? On this side?
Inside,
You see the names in with the red? That
Yeah.
means they're in training, they're not necessarily responding right now.
okay.
The ones that are up on the shifts,
So when you say they're in training, are they going through the school?
either EMT or fire, they're
Okay.
working through their
Okay.
training. So while they're in training, no, they're not responding.
Okay.
But we count them as far as how many we have that are,
I guess on this sheet, I mean, we don't know who's a volunteer and who isn't. So that's the thing. I'm assuming that everybody that's in red is a volunteer. That has red after their name.
well, one member's in red, but he's like, if you look on A platoon, Mr. Grimaldo, he'll be starting, but he'll be going through the academy, so he'll be a
Well, what
core.
I'm saying is maybe on this, you need, sorry, going back.
Yeah.
We need to designate if they're volunteers, because we don't know who all the career people are.
If that's helpful for you, I can
Yeah,
make one for
I
the
just a
board.
little
that
note
shows
that we
but
know who is a volunteer on this sheet. So it would
That's
just,
easy enough for you. This is the shift chart we use full department.
Yeah,
But I can
yeah.
make a modified one if that helps.
yeah,
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 thank you.
Hmm?
Be good.
thank you.
Any questions on that?
Mm-mm.
Either, okay, I'm going to the detailed 5-year plan document. And it does appear a little overwhelming, but the point of this is to show that what?
I know, there's a lot of people.
It does show by fund in a little greater detail what our expenditures would be playing out into 26, 27, 28, and 29. Just so that we can set revenue levels for our M&O levy, which we did based on this. And planning for when we can bring staff on and scheduling projects and everything. So everything under 25 is the same as what you saw on this chart here. The only difference really is that there's additional information for each of the 4 ensuing years. Now, the exercise for doing this is to tell me that we have a reasonably good estimate of what we will receive as revenues and a reasonably good estimate of what the expenses will be so that we can hopefully, unlike the federal government, balance the budget. So, and you can see, the good news is that we have a very sustainable ending cash balance or ending fund balance. And what that means is that's the cash that we have to have in our account to pay between January and March when we get our major tax collections. So we get our major tax collections in March and November. So you need to have a cash flow in order to continue to pay the bills during the first quarter of each year. This is what this cash will cover. So the good news is, I think we have a healthy cash flow based on the assumptions here. There's a whole shitload of assumptions, but for our operating budget, our operating revenue really is the only operating money we get. We allocate money from that to the other funds, the CNR&R and reserve funds.
So, and the cash flow is not the reserve fund, right?
No, reserve fund is a
Okay.
separate
Okay.
rainy day fund,
That's, I just wanted.
like an insurance policy. So, one of the things I want to call your attention to is that there's the estimated levy rate, and it's down at the bottom there, about halfway down the page. And this year, our levy rate is $2, or estimated to be $2.03. It's estimated to continually go down over time, as hopefully as our planned estimated assessed valuations increase and our costs stabilize, creating hopefully a positive divergence between revenue and expense. You had mentioned about the M&O in 2028, based on at least all of the assumptions that are in this model would show that we could ask for, plan for from 29, 30, 31, and 32, for example, at a lower levy rate and consequently less tax bill levy rate.
Right.
To our taxpayers. In whether that would play well 4 years from now, I have no idea, but I think it sends a fairly good message that I believe it's a reasonable program, and I think that one of the things that I know that we'll do in our programs here, in fact, one of the reasons I increased the community relations budget significantly is to bring more opportunities for the public to become involved in our process and understand how we do business and what it costs. So
So the project that we have that we're gonna do eventually at 83. Now, once that is completed, then will not some of these numbers
that's included in all this.
Huh?
That is included in all of this.
Okay, so, and does that come under the CR?
CNR, correct.
Okay, I see, oh, now I see the expenditures that where they'll drop in 2027.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But then it comes way back up in 2029.
Depends on what, and we'll look at this in just a moment, but it depends on whether we're buying a pumper or we're not doing anything that year. It just depends on when major assets come up for replacement.
Okay.
So is there any questions on this document at all?
Your estimate for assessed valuation growth is what kind of percent? Is like 3%?
It used to be for several years, many years, actually since 2008, it was about anywhere between 7.5% and 8%.
Correct.
And we always exceeded that, but I tended to try to be conservative until year before last, when it surprised the hell out of me and Lacey actually lost money on their AV. So we're down to around 3.5% to 4% now in our estimated.
And that's what you've used in this, yes, about 3.5% or 4%.
Yeah.
And then the cost inflation number or cost
3 to 5%.
about the same.
It's actually, the inflation is shown in the purple box on the side there, as far as expenditures.
Right.
So again, that's guesstimate.
Right. Well, estimate. You know, we'll if you get there, it's always something different.
It will be, I
Yeah.
guarantee it. But as of today, it's the way I think it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Any more questions on this? You know?
I appreciate all the work we put into that, that's a lot.
Well, it wasn't helpful not getting the revenue figures from the county. I couldn't do any further projections without knowing our cash carryover. So fortunately, we got it. did, so. This is an updated CNR&R plan. Chief McBride and his team went through it and provided some input on it. And so it's been modified. So when you look at the document, the first column and in the blue numbers are the actual from 2024. And then 2025 and on are estimates or requests for the budget. I did, looking at the document, I've highlighted some 2025 items. And so the first one that you see in a little kind of a pink highlight, if you will, for Station 81 is a estimated budget to upgrade our signage out in front. It's getting very old. Software's not being supported any longer. It's just old technology. And we're looking at that as a significant part of our community communications tool. So we're planning on upgrading that this year. Moving on down, the next box under Station 83 that's highlighted in pink is a similar but smaller sign for the North Olympia Fire Station. And then moving slightly down, you can see the two pink boxes for the project that Steve Hatton just briefed us on, and it shows that money allocated both 25 and 26. And then the only other pink highlighted box in facility or operations, I guess, is an expenditure for additional tools necessary when we receive our pumper in 25. Been told it's supposed to arrive sometime.
Okay, so 3 years from when we put in the order.
At least 3 years since we paid for it.
Yeah,
And then you'll notice down at the bottom there is some in sundry costs that we'll probably incur by getting the pumper in. So I put 15 grand in to cover those types of costs. You'll notice that our numbers of vehicles are continuing to shrink. We've reallocated our older ambulance to what we were calling a reserve apparatus, which means that it's going to hopefully suffer less wear and tear and be able to be there necessary if we need to have, the other one goes out for service, we can use it until the other one comes back. The same for the engine. We have a reserve engine and a reserved aid car that are stocked and ready to go if necessary, but aren't used frontline service. It shows that we will have a new pump coming this year, and one will be outgoing. Our 93 Pierce will be, once we receive the new one, we'll turn around and probably surplus that vehicle. We're also surplusing one of our utility vehicles this year, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes on our surplus resolution.
Talk about those apparatus a little bit too. We got lucky with 3 years. Those things are at a 53-month out wait. And I think it'd behoove us to put a line item in there somewhere to anticipate those needs. At district date, if we do it on mileage, we base it on years. But if we don't start planning for that 53-month turnaround, we could be waiting for years to get one of these rigs.
Yeah, we're gonna do our operating planning this year as the goal 1, goal 2 stuff. Part of that discussion, we'll be looking at when we really want to implement a new pumper. Pumpers seem to be the higher, longest length time. We were told that tenders are somewhat less time, probably half that. And we're not looking at replacing a tender in a while. So the one that we are avid discussion about is a replacement aid car for the one that we have in our front line right now. So at this time, and as you remember in our budget and business plan for this year, we have changed from 2 frontline aid cars to 1. Any other questions?
How many aid units do we have? 2?
We have 1 online and 1 reserve.
Okay. And where is the aid card typically stored at?
Over at the old shop. Rental cards waiting, and if we need to have it fill in for our aid car, we would bring it over from there, but we don't respond with the reserve pump or the reserve aid car typically. We, you know, frankly, no people, so. Okay, any questions? All right, then, the next page is, kind of trivia time. It mentioned about volunteer staffing and everything. As of 2024, we update our.
What page are you looking at now?
Five.
Alright. Oh, right here. Sorry,
Yeah.
in a different spot.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It shows from year by year, the volunteer statistics. So for 2024, we had an average of 26 volunteers. We had more bodies, but this number really counts FTEs, or how many annualized FTEs that we have. So it dropped slightly from 23. Interestingly enough, our average volunteer member seniority went up slightly, 2/10 up to 7.5 years. The median member seniority is at about 6.5, as compared to 6 from 2023. We had 8 new hires and we had 10 terminations. And the average tenure for a terminated member was 1.7 years. And that was because most of the ones that terminated had, frankly, had just been trained by us, pulled a few shifts, and then got a job somewhere.
Oh, yes.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
And then our attrition rate is down slightly from last year. We're about a third of our volunteers churn through the system. And again, as you can see, most of them are the newer ones, newer volunteers that we have.
What's the OSP stand for?
It includes our OSP volunteers, yes.
Operational support.
Oh, operations
Oh,
support.
thank you.
They primarily drive the tenders.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then the last page is a chart showing our average response times and staffing on incidents within the district. And it's the blocks, each of those little colored blocks represents essentially a square mile. The dispatch has divided our district, in fact, the whole county, up into a grid system. So it's like a township range type thing, if you understand surveying and that, but it's a geographical, basically a 1 mile geographical block. And the nomenclature is then from north to south, it's alphabetical, from east to west, it's numerical. So for years, I've tried to play it out so it relates better to a map, and it never works well. But so I've broken it up into the 3 stations and relatively where those blocks are. But in each one of those blocks, on the top half, if you will, shows the average response time within that block. And the color of the block denotes how many calls were within that block. So if there were less than 10 calls within that block, the block is white. And if there are 10 to 19 of them, it's blue, 20 to 29 is green, and 30 to 39 is yellow, 40 49 is orange, and then 50 plus is brown. So not surprisingly, you can see around the more urban area in South Bay, along the south side is the more prevalent numbers of call volume that we had. Our highest per block number was like 127 calls within that block.
Wow.
Which is, frankly, it's not a lot, but it's the highest that we have in our district. So looking at all that, we can then calculate what the average response time for each of the fire stations is. And it's listed there. For example, Station 83, within that area, is the average response time is 7 minutes and 21 seconds. Within the Station 81 area is 6 minutes and 43 seconds. And not surprisingly, with Station 82, it's 10 minutes and 7 seconds. And then it's broken down by each of those blocks. So, for example, if you're living out on the end of Johnson Point, you can expect it to take about 12 minutes for us to get there after we get the alarm. The average response time for the entire district was 7 minutes and 21 seconds. That's an increase from about 7 seconds from 2023, and for no apparent reason. Just worked out that way. And the same down at the bottom is the average staffing levels in the same methodology and everything. The one thing that I will say is now having evolved from a operating program where everybody responds from home when the plectron goes off to the call, now to having predominantly career staff on duty 24/7 in the station and everything. The average numbers of responders per incident has really coalesced into a single number. So it a variance between 3.1 and 3.4 almost for any call, which is good. I mean, that for 99% of what we do, 3 people on the scene generally will handle it pretty well, being that, you know, over a third of our calls are basically non-emergency medical calls. It probably helps, but so these are a breakdown of the numbers of calls. This used to be more interesting when we had volunteers, where we had peaks and valleys, and you probably remember those days. So it's kind of a rather boring statistic now, to be honest with you.
Well, I want to back up. The one thing I think you compared 2023 and 2024 and said there was about a 7-second difference overall as average, which I would say is statistically not really significant. But what it does say is that our crews are doing a consistent job.
Yeah, very little change. Yeah, it really, and frankly, a 7 minute and 21 second average through a defined rural area
With
is nothing to sneeze at,
with no body of water in the middle of it.
with a body of water in it.
Yeah.
So I would submit.
Seriously, good job, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my year-end pitch, and glad to answer any more.
So that, what I'm seeing is you're saying there's there's only 3.5 responders. But you have, you know, quite a few people actually on shift, so
Well, the whole company may not respond, depends.
on what you call.
Those are the numbers that actually did respond to the incident,
Okay,
not who was on duty.
okay.
Questions or comments, Chief?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good job. That's good. Okay, we're looking for a request for approval for the operating CRR and reserves budget for 2025.
Yes, so based on the information I just provided, I would be looking for approval for both, for basically the operating budget and, well, everything that's on this front sheet.
On the front sheet.
Right.
So I'll move to approve the 2025 budget operating the TRR and reserves funds. That's written.
Can I second it?
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, resolution 2501, I did send this out some time ago, but our policy requires that we do a biennial inventory of all of our assets, and Chief McBride and his team completed that this year. They identified items that they were recommended to me that we surplus, get rid of. So we did a really good house cleaning, I think, 2 years ago. We had far less stuff, garbage to get rid of. So essentially,
This was, as I recall, was an enormous list of radio equipment. Primarily because we've gone to a whole new system. And one vehicle, which was a old pickup truck.
it's one of the Tahoes, it's
One of
the
the
older of the
Tahoes.
Tahoes, so very simply, that's it, yeah. It's all the old VHF equipment, we've determined that we don't need that any longer. Good news is Justin pretty thorough about finding buyers for it, identified, some potential markets for it. So I think we can get a reasonably good return on our assets for that, so.
For all of the assets? Awesome.
But we have to determine surplus first.
Correct.
So I make a motion that we approve the surplus assets.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, down to the transfer of funds, is this the Heidi?
Yeah, that's the resolution that we, I mentioned it earlier before the meeting started, but for the purpose of the recording, we did three transfer of funds in January that were approved at the December meeting that were budgeted for. One of them we had already done in March, and it was moving 500,000 from the capital facilities fund into the general fund. And so when we got the revenues back, we realized that we had done this twice. So in order to rectify that, I had to do a reversal transfer.
Right.
And that's why I'm asking for approval for that resolution.
So I have resolution 2402 here, and I also have resolution 2502. So you can see, one is 1 year, one is another, so am I looking at something?
Oh, where did you find them?
They were on the, that's what I printed up off here.
It should be 2502. Oh, the reason is because we initially had one, written, oh, this is the one that we did.
Okay.
That we did in
March.
yeah, in March. And
Okay.
then this is the one to
That we
replace.
replace it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly right. And we were hoping to do it so they would backdate it for 2024, and the county will not do that. So it's gonna show up in the 2025 budget, which that always happens.
Right.
There's always something at the end of the year that
And then
you
it-
can't.
3
fix.
years.
in that
when
year.
We have the auditor and then they'll
Ex-
point to it again.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But like I said, as long as we have paperwork or notes showing why,
Yeah.
it'll be fine. Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the resolution 2505 transfer of funds reversed.
25, this says 2502 here on the
2502.
agenda.
That's because we used the one for the surplus.
Oh, okay, that was
Gotta
2501,
be the next number.
and the next number would be 2502, so is that,
This is 2502.
I just want to get the right number. for
Yeah, it
the
is. It's
recording.
2502 is the correct number for the,
Okay. For the 500,000, okay.
And I'll
For
second.
that, yeah. All right, moved and seconded, thank you for the clarification, all in favor, aye? Aye. Right, we are down to the secretary's report.
okay, I sent out the meeting minutes from December 10th and I didn't have any changes on that.
So I make a, this was a short meeting, pretty long to me. I make a motion that we approve the minutes from December 10th, 2024.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, aye?
Thank you.
Okay,
And then the warrants are there. Did you have any questions on those?
Just the normal sticker shock every time I read them.
Yeah.
That's all. It's like, oh.
And you might notice that the credit card report isn't as nice as it usually is, and that's because I had to do it, and Janet does a way better job.
okay, so we're looking for a motion to approve the warrants.
Make a motion that we approve the check register as it is written.
I'll second it.
All right, again, moved and seconded, all in favor, aye? Aye.
So, update on the audit, we are finally, done with the audit. There were no findings, there were a couple little, errors on the, not errors, but things that could have been corrected on the, financial report, which I did make those corrections and submitted them to him. And currently, we have a audit exit meeting scheduled for Tuesday, January 28th at 12:30. The board is invited. They do not have to attend. That's what the auditor said, but you're welcome to come, and please let me know, because if there's gonna be more than 3 of you, I'm gonna have to post it as a public meeting. But it will be a Teams remote meeting, and it's just to go over the results of the audit. I don't expect.
What's
it
the
to
date
take-
on that? The
Tuesday, January 28th. And I can send that out
probably won't be able to.
as a notice.
Stop, I've got stuff going on that day.
I'll send out a notice on that.
Thanks. Yeah.
And then the last thing I had is, I noticed when I sent out the proposed dates for the board meetings for next year, I forgot that in November 11th is actually Veterans Day.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was on a Monday. So
Oh, okay.
my question is, I was thinking, well, do we want to just move it to Monday? But Chief had a good point that since it's a long weekend, people might want to be traveling.
Mhm.
So do you want to move the date to the 18th, which would be the third Tuesday?
Is that gonna be any conflict with any other, like the Thurston County?
That is the night of the Thurston County Commissioners.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, okay. I didn't do an evaluation of that. I just thought we would talk about it, but what I can do, sorry, I'm not prepared. How about if I take a look at it and I'll just send out an email to you guys and get feedback, but FYI, we have to change the date because it's a holiday unless
Yeah.
we all want to show up on a holiday. Which we probably don't, so.
Okay.
You know, I saw that and I wondered, oh, are they, it's the 11th, it's the 11th, it's the
Yeah.
11th, but, wondered, well, the 10th is a Monday, maybe they're switching the holiday, or, anyway, but. That's-
They used to do that. They used to be the Monday around the 11th. Then somebody got pissed off about it and said
Yeah.
the 11th is the 11th, it's the
Some
11th. and they
World War
changed it.
One veteran who, that's what it's all about.
So I will review that tomorrow, you guys, and I'll send it out and get feedback from you. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Yeah, right, I would be, okay, I mean, just personally, I think, it's like the following day, Wednesday or something, the same week. Or something like that.
Yeah, that,
We could also have it on the first, the first Tuesday of November, which would be the 4th, but I'll take a
Oh,
look
I
at it.
won't have time to do reports.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Maybe the 12th. There you go. I'll look at that, okay? Yeah, possibly November 12th.
Right.
Okay.
Then that'll be budget time, too.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, reminder, I put it out there, the legislative day. I think last year it was, remote, but this year it showed,
They're gonna have it in person,
In
they'll be in
person.
the Capitol building again this
that's what
year.
I thought, yeah.
But it's much shorter. They used to have a lunch and everything, and it's a 2-hour meeting.
Yeah, it's only a couple hours.
And then the idea would be that participants would make appointments with their elected officials down there.
Yeah.
So I'm not planning on going.
I don't have any questions for that.
I probably will go. I've gone the last 2 years.
Okay. Just,
And then a reminder that our awards banquet is coming up. It'll be here before we know it on the 1st of February. We're having it at the same location, the River's Edge. And, it's gonna be fun.
well, last year.
I hope you guys can all make
That
it.
sounded like you had some plans in there.
Well, we do have plans,
Okay.
No.
Can I put an announcement in?
Yeah.
Just to add to the announcements, Chief and I did a video, an educational video for all the members that went out today, so if you weren't skimming through emails. I know a couple of you mentioned it, but an email went out today, it's 28-minute video on updates about the department, so it's got a lot of the detailed questions I think that people are asking about. I'm sorry, not the detailed stuff, the overview of what's going on.
I saw it, I just haven't reviewed it.
We're down to commissioner comments. Anybody has any?
I will say, on, Ben Miller Todd had sent out a copy of the bylaw changes for Medic One. And he asked me to send it out to everybody. Did you get my email? It was the revised bylaws for Medic One.
I don't recall.
We cycled those about 3 or 4 months ago. And I didn't get any comments back, so obviously made a huge impression. on
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, he was just asking if he did get a copy of it. I would have sent them out about a week to, actually, Jerry Bickett is who you'll find it under.
Okay.
Jerry Bickett send it out to everybody, just to go through them. If you have anything you want to say, contact Ben Miller Todd himself.
Yeah, it was actually 3 documents. I did send out the draft comprehensive plan, EMS comprehensive plan to you a month or 2 ago, as well as the draft BLS agreement. So both of which are currently in the process of being approved.
Okay.
The other thing I want to give a heads up on is that for the Thurston County Commissioners Association, we plan on getting together face-to-face 3 times a year, and we are here. We've got scheduled with Heidi. April 15th will be the meeting here live. Hopefully, it's open to all commissioners throughout all the fire commissioners in the county. So.
I'll just comment that thanks to Mr. LeMay, I made it to Chief Brooks' little retirement soiree that was over at the South Puget Sound Lacey campus. Very nice little event. And I know there were multiple events that where he's being recognized for his years, and he did retire, I guess, was as of the end of the year, the end of December, that kind of thing. Just, I don't know if you've ever had engagement with Chief Brooks, just a delightful man. Yeah, super competent, lots of comments about his leadership skills and the way he embodied character and brought that to the department. And so I was really happy I was able to make it. Chief LeMay and I had talked about going to that, and I was working on my water line and just got it done, and I looked at my phone and there was a text message from Brandon saying, "Hey, are you still going to that thing?" Oh my gosh, yeah, I sure wanted to. So able to get the mud off me enough to get over there and attend. Well worthwhile.
Yeah, it's you know, it's hard to see him go from Lacey, but he's really not really gone. He's still working with the district on some strategic planning. I believe going to be there through the first quarter. But his new job is as the executive director of the Washington State Fire Chiefs Association, which is probably the second best place for him to be in the community. And I'm really excited to see him take that role on. He's had a pretty good statewide presence for a while, and I think he will really do a really good job at that, in that position. It's quite influential.
Was he in Olympia for a while? Long time ago?
No.
No, Steve came from the foreign land called Tennessee. And,
Oak Ridge.
Wow, that's cool.
yeah,
I got a good story to tell about Steve. When I got hired, we were on a safer grant, and we got introduced for the commissioners. It was our first week of deployment, and there was 12 of us within that group. And so Chief Brooks got up there, and without taking notes or reading anything, introduced myself, my family, and my 2 kids, and that was for all 12 of us. Memorized every one of our names.
Oh my
Wow.
Took the time up
That's
front.
pretty amazing.
Didn't see the beat with that entire thing. Oh, yeah, you get behind a person that does that, that's the people in the first week, get behind them the next 15 years.
Yeah.
It was a very remarkable individual that really did a lot for our county.
Yeah. And just an incredible speaker. I've heard him speak a number of times, and wow, wish I could do that. I mean, he's just
All off the cuff.
all off the cuff. Yeah, it's so polished and so, yeah, very, very good.
So we missed.
All right, what do we have? Review and follow-up.
follow-up is just, we will get the budget stuff put together. We've begun work on our 2025 goals and objectives. We'll be providing a monthly update on those like we have in the past. And follow-up will be probably for our project. The next time you'll see us, is if they requested to go out and hire a contractor to do the work.
All right, with that, we'll recess the meeting. And we'll go to executive session. Just some discussion about performance review. And we'll take no action during that meeting, and then we'll come back. I anticipate that will take 20 minutes. And then we'll come back and adjourn.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, you want to, who wants to sign first?
Oh, I'll let him sign it.
Oh, yeah, can you stop the recording?
Oh, yeah.
No, on my back.
Yeah.
I can give you a credit too.
Or maybe we-
Good, good.
Yes.